Hello everybody, Adam Cleary here from FourFourTwo, and it is my great privilege to tell you that Napoli, yes, Napoli, have just won their first Serie A title since 1990. Sorry, what? They didn't actually win that game. Right, it's just because I've started the video, so... So how, I hear you ask, have they gone and done something as mad as that? Well, this is the team they've pretty much used consistently all season. And it would be really nice if I could point at like one tactic, one system, one formation, one player, one anything and say, look, this is the thing that neatly sums up how they've gone and done it. But the thing about Napoli, right, and why they're one of the most exciting teams in Europe to watch is... it isn't one thing, it's loads of things. In a nutshell, they are pretty much the most tactically flexible and circumstantially alert football team in all of Europe. And that, my friends, is pretty cool. Okay, so really quick bit of background context to all of this. The reason nobody expected Napoli to do anything like this season is because their summer transfer window was brutal. They lost a number of really important players like Dries Mertens, Fabian Ruiz, Milik, and what looked most fatal of all, Koulibaly to Chelsea. And the players they brought in to replace them seemed fine, they seemed functional, they seemed like they would do a job. Napoli had finished third last year, and if they'd had a good season, maybe they would have stayed there or just dropped a little bit lower. But what nobody thought they had done was improved this team. And my God, how these players improved this team. Kvitska Kvaratskhelia was brought in from the Georgian League of all places and might genuinely already be one of the most exciting young wingers in Europe. Frank Anguissa, who you may remember from his time at Fulham, has come in and revolutionised how their entire midfield functions. But most decisively of all, they brought in Min Jae Kim from the Turkish league, and he genuinely has a shout of being the best transfer in all of Europe this season, honestly. So with a seemingly underwhelming set of acquisitions in one hand and a team that a lot of people thought had maybe overperformed slightly, even getting into third last year in the other, how did Spalletti turn this into the most exciting team in Europe to watch? Well, basically he did it by deciding that formations were for dweebs and losers, and what you should actually do is, instead of playing a shape, you should play a situation. Right, so normally they are in this sort of 4-3-3 shape, but what they actually do is just whatever the hell they need to do whenever they need to do it. Primarily they're a possession-based side. Like, they lead Serie A in terms of possession. I think they've got like 62-63% average every single game, and the next nearest team's like Inter with 56-57, so it's quite a distance. And if you're thinking, oh, so they're quite negative then and they just sort of tip it around to the back for ages, no, they actually, despite being the leading possession side, have the fewest touches of any team in the league in their own box, but have the most touches of any team in the league in the middle of the pitch and in the attacking third. And if you can just taste that for 1 second, yes, that is just a little flavour of why they're so good to watch. So what they'll usually do in their build-up is the goalkeeper, the two centre-backs, and one of the midfielders, usually Anguissa, they will just knock it round in this nice little diamond pan. All four of them are absolutely excellent on the ball, so you can't really press them, and the two full-backs, they'll go out as wide as they possibly can to give them some other options and open out the pitch. And if the opposition do decide they're going to try and squeeze them in this area, then, well, it's fine. The four of them are great on the ball. They're not really too worried about that, but they're also really happy just to knock it out to the full-backs, to go long into the midfield, or even go all the way to the opposite end to the two wide attackers or to Victor Osimhen. And this is where you start to see just how flexible they are, because if they are really getting squeezed in this area and they can't find a way out, one of the other two midfielders, either Zielinski or Anguissa, depending on what side of the pitch it's in, they will drop back and form a double pivot. That then effectively makes them an extra man in that situation. So if it is Zielinski, he's great on the ball, he can then switch it wide, he can try and go long into the attackers. It basically puts him in a position where he can be dangerous. Or if it's on the other side, Anguissa will come over, and he's great at running with the ball. He's an excellent box-to-box midfielder. He is amazing at carrying it out of these situations, so instead of trying to find a pass, he'll just run. But what that also gives them, and I'm sorry I'm getting so excited talking about this, I just really love Napoli, you always have a triangle in the middle of the pitch because all three of them are just really switched on. Like, it'll always be Lobotka in the six, so you get this kind of shape here, but if he has to have someone alongside him, the other midfielder, aware of this, will shuffle into a more central area, effectively just flipping it around. Now I know what you're thinking, oh brilliant, three very functional, very dependable central midfielders there, that must make them a really solid defensive outfit, Adam, and yes it does, but they're so adaptable. Zielinski's actually a fantastic number 10. He's like a Kevin De Bruyne style player, so it's not unusual for Napoli to, instead of setting up with that 4-3-3, to do a 4-2-3-1 with him in the hole. Honestly, they're just dead good. Right, so that is the build-up, but the real fun is in how they attack. So you will no doubt have heard a lot this season about Victor Osimhen. He's definitely one of the most dangerous centre-forwards in Europe. If they can keep him, they could probably win the league again next year, but in all likelihood, they're going to sell him for just mad money in the summer. But it's actually how the three of them work in a unit, which is really, really good. Like on the right-hand side, you've either got Politano or Lozano. They tend to rotate those two around. They get about an equal amount of game time, but it's Kvaratskhelia on the left who is just brilliant. So as you'd no doubt notice, because you're a clever thing, I didn't mention either of the wide attackers getting involved in any of that build-up stage. That's because what they like to do is to stay as high as possible to stop the opposition fullbacks getting involved in any kind of press. Now, if they do get involved in any kind of press, then fantastic. They'll just sit in the space and wait for either Zielinski or Kim Min-jae to get on the ball. They'll go direct and they're in. But if they don't, which they usually don't, they try and stay as high and as wide as possible because what they want to do is get the ball and be in a one-on-one situation. Kvaratskhelia in particular will just destroy a fullback in that kind of scenario. Now, Osimhen is an absolutely lethal finisher. He is incredibly strong. He's good in the air. He's good on the ball. His pace is unbelievable. He will stay as high as possible. He will try and lock both centre-backs up because they won't want to leave him, which means all the attacking, all the movement, all the spaces you can exploit end up being on the flanks. And what they do, and this is genuinely one of my favourite things in football, is let's say they're on the left-hand side. That midfielder will come up and the fullback on that side will come up as well, and they'll have themselves a little triangle. Now, this isn't particularly unusual. Loads of teams will try and do this. The team you support probably try and do this, but the difference with Napoli is that the roles do not matter. Now, normally in this situation, you'd expect the winger to probably try and get inside that way. The fullback's expected to make overlaps, and the midfielder is there to kind of bounce the ball off to be the pivot in that situation. But with Napoli, they don't give a shit. If the scenario looks better for it, then the midfielder will make the outside overlapping run, or the fullback will make the run into the box, or the attacker will then end up being the pivot. It's just pure chaos, and it's almost impossible to defend against. But what makes this absolutely delicious is that while they are genuinely trying to attack down the flanks, I think something like 40% of all their goals have come from this area of the pitch, they are constantly mindful of where other opportunities may be developing. Let's say you, the opposition, are alive to this and you've brought an extra player over onto this side to try and defend it. Well, that just creates space in the middle, doesn't it? So while using whoever's currently playing as the winger to stay on the touchline and keep the opposition as stretched as possible, whoever's playing as the centre mid and whoever's playing as the fullback, they'll just move over into the middle with the other two midfielders, and all of a sudden you've got an overload. And from there, because Osimhen's capable of making so many great blindside runs because he absolutely terrorizes defenders, you've got so many options for putting him in. Or likewise, you get them into a panic, they all just try and crowd the middle of the pitch, and wouldn't you just know it, you've left a wide attacker there who's now in loads of space. And the thing is, none of this is one tactic or one approach or one system or one clever thing that Napoli do that gets them loads of goals. It's about being tactically aware of what's going on around you on the pitch and just being well trained enough that you're all flexible to adapt to what's going on. But the reason Napoli have done so well this season is because when teams have tried to counter their system, they found there isn't really a system. And if there's anything that sort of proves that, it's the fact they are the top scorers in Serie A by a mile this season. They've scored 68 goals at the time of me recording this video. And while Osimhen's got like 21 of those, the remaining, 47 have all been shared around among 16 different players. Anyway, that is why I love Napoli this season. Amo Napoli is, I think, how you say it. They're just so much fun. But if you've seen them, I would genuinely like to know what you think in the comments below. And if you can't think of anything to say, just comment Forza or something. I don't mind. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to FourFourTwo. We make these kinds of videos every single day, and it's loads and loads of fun, and we would dearly like to have you, yes you, along for the ride with us. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching. I've, of course, been Adam Cleary. This has been FourFourTwo, and congratulations, Napoli, either right now or next week, depending on what happened in the game that wasn't played when I recorded this video. Anyway, ciao!